time for this or that, book edition, relatively rapid fire, hopefully no overthinking. Let's go. Okay, hardback or paperback? Well, there's no simple answer to that question, is there? I probably have a preference for, do you know, the normal, regular, kind of smaller sized paperback books? But if we're talking new releases, in Ireland, we don't do too many hardback new release books. What we get are the trade paperbacks. So they're like paperbacks, but they're big. They're like the size of the hardback books. And I detest those. I actually refuse to buy the trade paperbacks. Hate them. But I don't mind when the hardbacks are in that size. So generally, if we're talking new releases, it's hardback. But if it's more of a backlist book, then your dinky little regular paperback will do me just fine. Thanks very much. Annotating or pristine pages. Okay, I tend to leave my books quite pristine. I used to be very precious about my books, not so much anymore, but I don't like my handwriting. I don't think I have any spectacularly individual thoughts. I'm like, I don't need to write that into my book. I don't see the point in me writing things in my book. But then I see other people's beautifully annotated books and I'm like, I'd love to be able to do that, but it never looks nice when I do it. So pristine, I guess, with a little bit of side-eye envy for the people who can make their books look really pretty when they annotate. Standalone or series? I'm gonna go with standalone, although lately, we'll say the past 2 years, I've gotten pretty good at following along with series. I'm in the middle of a few that I do really like, but overall, I love when a book comes and it's just compact and it's in its own little shell of a cover, and that's it. That's what we get. Your story begins and it ends, and I love when an author can do something really impactful within the space of just one book. Enemies to lovers or friends to lovers? Honestly, I don't particularly care. Not to say it's not good, not to say that I don't respect your choices if you love romance books. They're just not necessarily for me. If I have to choose, I'm going enemies to lovers. The next one sort of ties into that then as well. So slow burn or insta-love? 100% slow burn. Pals, they better not be touching pinky fingers, like not brushing off each other for 250 pages. Plot driven or character driven? Generally, I'm going to say character driven. Most of my favorite books are really tenderly written, beautifully written, character driven books. I love seeing characters change and progress, maybe get worse over the course of a book. Although I do love a good plot, and I do believe that there has to be a plot there, because otherwise, what are authors writing about? Why do they sit down to write this thing? But generally, character driven for me. Happy ending or tragic but beautiful? Lads, you know I love to cry. I'm taking tragic but beautiful every time. All of my favorite books pretty much are quite sad. This one for me is a little bit controversial. Fantasy or contemporary? Once again, we're speaking about my favorite books. All of my favorite books are contemporary literary fiction. But over the past few years, I've really gotten into reading fantasy, and I have found some beautifully written, brilliantly written fantasy books as well. But I think my heart has to stay with contemporary. Reading at night or reading in the morning? I read at night mostly when I get into bed. And sometimes my bedtime is like 6:30 p.m. That's a good day. When I can get into bed as early as is humanly possible, then that's a great day. I do like to read in the mornings, but generally when I wake up, I'm quite sleepy and I find it difficult to read. And also I kind of like to get on with my morning. So breakfast and do a bit of exercise, get all of the life stuff out of the way before I read, because otherwise I have all these things like sitting on me. But I do love reading in the mornings as well, but generally I tend to veer more toward nighttime. Physical books or ebooks? I'll have both, thanks. But generally I do prefer to have physical books. I love books as objects in and of themselves, regardless of the content. I just love a book, the smell of it, the feel of it, the sound of a page turning, you know, when it's floppy and it makes that flopping noise. But I also love an ebook. I think ebooks absolutely have their place. We can bring thousands of books in our pockets. We can buy a book and have it immediately in our hands. Ebooks are incredible. I do have to say I love physical books, but I also really like having an e-reader. It's light to carry around. It's easy for traveling. The charge lasts really long. I don't necessarily love that my e-reader is a Kindle and I'm tied into the Amazon interface. I'm buying my ebooks off of Amazon. Amazon still own all my books. ebooks. Don't love that, but I do love the whole overall concept of an e-reader. But physical books are going to peak that for me every time. Bookstore or a library? Well, pals, the library basically raised me. I went to primary school literally across the road from my local library. So when I was finished in school, I would go over to the library to do my homework. I've always been a reader. I've always loved reading. My mom took me to the library from quite an early age. Basically, when I had finished reading every book that they had in my school library, my school suggested to my mom that I start using the library in my town. So the library has really fueled my love for reading, and I think in Ireland we're really blessed as well because we have so many brilliant events in our libraries. There's no fines. There are so many different things you can get from the library that aren't just books. I really think you can love the library and get so much use out of the library even if you're not a reader. Each to their own, absolutely. That said, now that I have a little bit more money, not a lot, but a little bit more money, I do love going into a bookshop. Even if it's just to browse, I just love looking around, seeing what's out there, checking to see if something was released in trade paperback or in hardback. I love a bookshop, and I don't actually spend as much time in the library anymore. But that being said, this year and last year, my main priority is to read the physical books on my shelves so that I can start going back to the library a lot more and just reading from the library, supporting my library, spending more time there. It's such a relaxing, lovely space, and I don't know why I don't spend more time in it anymore. The one thing about bookshops is a lot of the time now they don't have spaces to sit down and to relax in. It's kind of a space you pass through, whereas the library is like this last public space where I'm not expected to spend money and I can stay for as long as I like, which is brilliant. I think overall, personally, I love going into a bookshop more, but I have historically always loved the library as well. So we'll always promote the library where I can. Cover by or review based? Generally now, I will always buy a book based on reviews I have seen or that I have read, purely because I don't want to waste my time and I don't want to waste my money if I'm buying the book. And sometimes books are great and they have covers that I don't like, and sometimes books are not so great and they have covers that I do like. So I'd rather just have an idea of what a book is about, what people are thinking, what people are feeling about it. We can always be surprised, we can always have different opinions to other people, but I like to kind of know what I'm getting myself in for. I feel like I mostly know my own reading taste now. I'm in my mid-30s. I know what I like, and the people that make the book covers, like, they're paid to do that. That's a form of marketing. The blurb on the back is really thought through, the illustration or the art, the font, the colours, that's all an art. People are doing that to sell books. So sometimes a cover will be really nice and the content is just not there. Generally, I do prefer review-based. I do really miss going into a bookshop or a library and just picking a book up and bringing it home. I have to do that more often. DNF or push through? I would always suggest to anybody that if they're not enjoying a book, that they should DNF it. But for some reason, I generally just always push through, just in case. Read in silence or with music? I much prefer to read with music, generally some sort of contemporary classical playlist or a lo-fi playlist. Big fan of lo-fi girl over here as well. I have tinnitus permanently in my left ear, and I find silence really difficult because I don't have silence anymore. There is never silence, so sometimes it's nice to have a little bit of what feels like white noise in the background to sort of drown that out. And also, I live in a place that's never really all that quiet, so when the sounds are blocked out just a little bit by some low music, then I can get into the zone a bit more because I'm not getting distracted by all of these superfluous noises that I hate. Cozy mystery or dark academia? I think generally I really love the idea of dark academia, but the only dark academia book that I have read and really liked has been The Secret History, which is like the OG. And ever since, I feel like I'm trying to find something that I really love. I love that cozy sort of setting within dark academia. I love the tropes within it, but generally it just doesn't hit me in the way that I would like it to. So I probably prefer cozy mysteries, but I don't read all that many of them. So I guess this one's a bit of a toss-up. Villain arc or redemption arc? I would have thought that maybe a villain arc could have been quite interesting, but I recently read The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes by Suzanne Collins, and while I loved every other Hunger Games book, this villain arc book, I wasn't really enjoying it all that much because I felt like I didn't have somebody to root for. Generally, redemption arc. And I also think maybe people aren't always black and white. And with a redemption arc, we see kind of both sides. Whereas with a villain arc, sometimes it starts out where somebody's like not a great person and then they just get worse. Whereas with redemption, there's sort of scope for change and growth. First person or third person POV. I generally like the idea of a third person POV a bit more. Sometimes I feel like a first person POV, it's nice to know their thoughts, what they're thinking, what's going on in their heads, but I do love that level of remove that comes with third person. Sometimes first person to me feels a little bit cheesy or a little bit overwrought. Generally, when I'm reading a book though, it's not even something I notice all that much, but if I had to choose, I'm gonna say third person. Tropes or totally original plots. Lads, I love an original plot. I'm not a huge fan of tropes, and I understand that they're a thing and they're comfortable and we like what we like, and it's nice to find a book with particular tropes that we like, and of course there are particular tropes that I enjoy, but I love an original story. I love when I read a book and I feel like I have never read anything like that before, as long as it's good, of course. Dog ear the pages or use a bookmark. All day, every day. I love a bookmark, particularly if it's got some nice tassels, if it's got a cute design, if it's like something really adorable like animal shaped. I love a bookmark. Now that said, I have nothing against anybody dog earing their books. Use what you gotta use. We can do what we wish with them. Books are objects. Once they are our own books and we have permission to do with them as we please, if you want to dog ear your books, you go ahead and dog ear your books. But for me, I love a cute bookmark. BookTok hype or hidden gem. I love a book that really surprises me, and I have found that sometimes when books are really hyped, they're just not for me. None of the really hyped books that I've read have I loved. They've been fine. Some of them have been good, but I've never loved a super hyped book. That sounds like such a hipster thing of me to say, but it's absolutely not at all. I just love when you find a book that you're not really expecting anything from. You just want to have a good time and read it, and then it just blows your mind for whatever reason. That's what I love. I love to find originality and surprise within my books. I love books that are beautifully written. I love books that I find on my own and are just such a surprise. So tell me, do you agree or do you disagree with any of these? Are you my bookish soulmate? Let me know in the comments below. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button if you want to see any more from me, and otherwise, take care. I'll talk to you soon.